you come to a point where email stops being a marketing problem and it becomes a leadership issue. And if you've crossed that line, there's no new sequence or template or campaign or tactic that will fix that issue. Listen, I see the same 3 issues show up again and again over time once a business already has demand for their products. So pain point number 1 that shows up, the choke point. Number 2 is decision fatigue. And number 3 is episodic revenue. Number 3 is my absolute favorite to talk about, so we'll get into that one. But let's first talk about number 1. The first sign is that you're the choke point for your marketing strategy. Emails do not go out unless you approve them, unless you're writing them. Campaigns wait on your energy. Revenue slows when your attention starts to shift. And at this stage, the problem isn't skill. It's that the pause and the system still depend totally on you without having another marketing director to come in and take the load off, take the heavy weight off. Because quite frankly, at this stage in your business, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's impossible for you to own the product marketing, to talk to your clients, to make sure your team is doing everything they need to do, and then you trying to handle all of the retention marketing by yourself, especially if you're handling a podcast, you're handling live videos pretty frequently, or you have a YouTube channel. Email becomes fragile because it's attached, unfortunately, to your availability. Now, point number 2 is decision fatigue. The second sign is a constant decision fatigue that you experience, and your clients start to experience it as well. Technically, nothing's actually wrong, but everything requires a decision. Is this value or promotion? Should we send today or tomorrow? How many emails are we going to send during our next launch? How many launches are we going to do this year? How do we implement an evergreen funnel? Those are all decisions that you have to make, and that fatigue also distributes into your email list. People can tell it when you only show up for launches or when you're not communicating with them consistently throughout the slower months where you don't necessarily have a new offer, or maybe you hit your revenue goals and you disappear. For your audience, that's a point of drop off. That's where they're like, hey, I don't even see these emails from this person anymore, or even worse, they just forget about you altogether. And so email becomes a background process running in your head. That's not leverage. That is a cognitive tax. So now my third point, which I said is my absolute favorite to talk about, episodic revenue. Now, when your revenue feels like you're watching TV seasons, you're watching your favorite show and you're waiting for your favorite season to come on, and then once the season is over, you have to wait another 1.5 years to see it again. Your revenue should not feel like that. Your revenue should not only come in certain seasons. There's a way to have a downsell process, a cross-sell process, an upsell process in your email marketing. And this is the space between launches so everything doesn't feel awkward with your audience. And that's the tell, because at the leadership level, the goal is not more spikes. It's actually stability that you can rely on. Let me take a sip of my coffee here. Now, you need to start thinking about email as a CEO, as an operator. My favorite book, one of my favorite books is called The CEO Next Door, and it totally gets you in the mindset. I read it years ago, but I still think about it all the time. It gets you in the mindset of, okay, I need to function like a CEO. And guess what? In corporate marketing rooms, in education technology firms, even I've worked in DNA companies as an email marketing consultant, they're not worried about, oh, let me just budget this money for marketing. They're like, no, we need to spend more on marketing. We need to spend more on emails. We need to also include SMS. They're not going cheap with their marketing. They're actually going in and they're spending as much as they possibly can on their messaging through emails, SMS sometimes, and then also their blogs or white papers, because all of those things add in to their content marketing presence and eventually their sales cycle. So it gets a little bit into sales engineering. Now, I want to define operator mode for you right now. Operator mode with email means a couple of things. You are not the choke point for your business. Decisions are pre-made by the system. Revenue does not depend on your constant effort. And email becomes infrastructure and not a checklist, a task that you're just checking off and saying, hey, did we send one email today? Did we send 2 emails today? This is the difference between growth that feels exciting and growth that feels calm. Now, I'm going to open up for a few questions. You can drop your questions down below. Hi, Socially Ellie. She says, I like your outfit. Thank you. But I want this to be controlled. So I actually wrote down a few common questions that people ask as it relates to their email marketing strategy. Now, this is for founders who are not new. They've been emailing their list. Maybe you email them twice a week and you're like, why aren't sales converting? Well, twice a week isn't enough in the 2026 economy. I mean, it's December 31st. So you're basically in the 2026 economy and you're going to have to understand what's required in this economy, okay? And so if you're asking yourself things like, how do I stop being the bottleneck without losing control? What does an email system actually look like at this stage in my business? What if my email system already works, but it feels heavy, it feels stressful? How do I know if I'm ready for operator mode? And do I have to email constantly for this to work? These could be some of the questions that are going through your head. Now, one that I want to address right up front. What does an email system look like at this stage? For a couple of my most recent clients, in the last 30 days, it looked like also going into product marketing to figure out downsells and cross-sells for their entire email sequence. For both a wellness practitioner who specializes in menstrual cycles and menopause, and then for an e-commerce agency that was adding a course into her revenue and needed a sales page and an email sequence. For both of these clients, they had different sales mechanisms. One did sales calls, so all the emails that I wrote would go directly for them to book a call, and that's how she'd book clients. Then for the course creator, this is very common with course creators. I've worked with dozens and dozens and dozens of course creators throughout the years since 2016, since the industry really got big with online courses. And what always works with them is a sales page and an email sequence, but the email sequence has to be sales focused, almost mirroring the sales page. You need to have a lot of cohesion with those two things because clients are looking at the sales page and they're looking at the email sequence. And if there's incongruency in the copy and the messaging, you're not reminding them, you're not doing risk reversal, you don't have any guarantees, you don't have a proof point via email and the sales page, then people are not going to trust the course. And so that's why I wanted to answer that question. For both of those clients, their email system looks a little bit different. The only thing that's similar is the cadence, 12 to 20 sales emails within a 30-day time period. But there's different mechanisms. So one is actually having her clients read a sales page, and the other is having clients speak to her through a call. It's totally dependent on where you're at in your business. That's what I focus on in my VIP days. We take an audit of what you are doing for 3 hours straight. Usually it lasts actually 90 minutes, but I like to block off 3 hours just in case, okay? And then what if email already works, but it feels heavy? This happens to a lot of my agency clients. So they will be a finance firm, a DNA company, a healthcare practitioner, a mental health practitioner. And so they run an actual agency. They have a team and they have been writing their emails because they're letting their team do the leadership things that the team needs to do to execute for clients, but they're the one writing their emails. And so by the time they get to me, they are tired, exhausted, they're frustrated. By the time they find my Instagram profile or they're opening my emails, they're like, hey, can you just write all of these emails for me? And typically they're like, hey, I know that I need you to write 2 emails per day or 1 email per day. They understand how often nurturing is required, especially if they're running ads, especially if they have a podcast. They already know these repetitions have to be in, so it's not really a question of, oh, how many emails do I do? It's a non-negotiable. They're like, I need to send emails every single day in all seasons, but I just don't want to be the one to do it, okay? And then how do you know if you're ready for operator mode? So you are ready for operator mode if you are at your wit's end with writing email copy by yourself, or you're letting it fall through the cracks, or you have a junior copywriter, a virtual assistant who is not able to execute at the level of return on investment that you want, because email marketing is a sales activity. So if you don't have a background in sales or human psychology, you don't have a process to book more clients, you don't have standardization, then it's going to be difficult to hire someone to do that role, because this person may be brand new to copywriting, they may be brand new to sales, or they may not have any sales methodologies at all. And then have they actually gone through to work with over 100 different clients in email marketing exclusively? Email marketing is the type of thing where you really want a professional. It can get super messy if there's not a professional. And so technically you'll have emails going out, but you don't have sales coming in, and that's a really big issue. And so if work feels light right now, you may already be close to getting to the next step in your email marketing. But if it still lives in your head, even though it technically feels like you're like, I kind of have a rhythm, but still in the back of your head at 2:42 a.m., you're like, what am I going to talk about tomorrow? The work is not done yet, because systems don't require constant supervision. I want you to understand that. And then you will know if you are ready to take email marketing to the next level in 2026 if you don't want to learn email anymore. You don't want to do another course. You don't want to read another book. You do not want to attend another webinar. You don't want to do any more learning. You want email marketing and retention marketing handled. You want execution, because you have to focus on leadership and visibility, products, or your lifestyle without revenue wobbling. That's the main signal that you're ready to take your email marketing strategy to the next level. And then, do you have to email a lot for this to work? And it's not necessarily about volume. It's not like, let's send 4 to 5 emails every day and have this super urgent call to action at the end of every email. It's really about the intentionality of your message and making sure that we're looking at the data. We're going over some of your client calls. We're looking at your recent wins, writing a lot of client case studies. That's something I do a lot for my clients who have a lot of testimonials. Take those to the next level and write case studies. You can check out www.tiffygwrites.ai to see how to properly write a case study instead of just sending out testimonials. Testimonials sometimes fall on dull ears because we all see testimonials, but a case study is going to give you the context behind why somebody was able to prosper in your business or in a specific industry. And then I want to leave you with this. If you're at the stage where email should not require this much of your mental space anymore, this is the work I do privately. Not writing emails, designing a system that holds steady while you take the leadership mantle. Now, go ahead, leave questions in my DMs if you're curious. Check out the link in my bio to apply to Magnetic Emails VIP Day. I have one spot for January 6th, and that's it. I'll see you next time.